Hello friends, my name is Aubrey. Welcome back to my channel. So it is time once again to do a book haul. So today we are going to look at all of the books that I have received in the month of May. So as usual, I am going to go through them based off of where I got them, but I did want to start with an art book that I got. So I follow this artist on Instagram and I just think that her art is absolutely beautiful. It's very whimsical, very magical, very lovely. And so I have been like umming and ahhing about ordering her art book for several months, and then I saw that stock was getting quite low, so I went ahead and bit the bullet. And so this is the Heretofore Undisclosed Sketchbook of Subject 1984 by Kiri Ostergaard Leonard. And I'm sorry if I pronounced her name incorrectly, but her art is just absolutely beautiful. You can see some of the examples on the front cover there. And I did get the signed copy. And it's just so pretty. I have flipped through it a little bit, but I do need to sit down and spend some time actually going through each page. And she has like little poems or little stories and little bits of inspiration written in there as well. So it's just so lovely. And with this, I didn't know that this was going to come with it, but she sent a cute little postcard with one of her color illustrations. There is the back. It's so cute and so sweet. And she also sent me this art print called Meadow Mischief. It's so pretty. Such a cute little kitty. So I love it. I love art and I love art books, and I have been following her on Instagram for a while, so I wanted to support her, and I also wanted to have that so that I could look through the illustrations and stuff. I just think it's so lovely. Also, don't mind the lack of decorations on my bookcases, or like if they look different. I am doing a bit of a bookshelf reorganization, so you can look out for that video in June. It'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you're interested in this, her website is Valkyrie, so Valkiri. So if you're interested in any of her like prints or illustrations or checking out her art, I would go there. And also her Instagram is lovely as well. Okay, so going through the rest of this book haul, it is going to be actually quite large for a couple of reasons. So I did partake in a book outlet sale that was going on, and then Books A Million had a sale on their manga. So I got some of that, particularly some Black Butler volumes, because I was missing some still and I wanted to get all of the ones that are out so far because I am currently reading that series. I also had several pre-orders come in, like special editions and things, so it is going to be quite a large book haul. So we're just gonna go through these. So I did get 2 books from Amazon. The first one I'm so excited about. So when I heard that this book was announced, I lost it a little bit. I love this series, and it's not normally a series that I would find myself, like the premise is not normally something I would be interested in, but I love it. It's like so addictive, and that is All for the Game by Nora Sakavic. So originally it was a trilogy, but she has now released a 4th book called The Sunshine Court, and these are self-published. The series essentially follows how can I say this in a way that's going to not sound completely insane? It's probably just going to sound insane. But so we follow, in the main series, our main character, Neil Jawson, who doesn't have anywhere to go. He's running from some really shady stuff, perhaps, like bad family life. You kind of find out what's going on later in the series. All I'll say is like the mob, mafia, that sort of vibe is going on here. Lots of trigger warnings in the series, but all he wants to do is play this game called Xe, which is this sport that he has been in love with since he was a kid. And so he actually gets recruited to join this college team, the Palmetto Foxes. The team's coach David Wymack essentially recruits kids who are basically have not been given good opportunities in life for whatever reason. Like one of the members is a former drug addict. You have people who like have abusive families, neglectful families, no family at all. Just essentially kids who have been mistreated, don't really have good opportunities, and he recruits them to play on his team, and so then they also get an opportunity to go to college and on a scholarship. So Neil joins this like a ragtag team, and he ends up kind of I really don't know how I can describe this without spoiling stuff, but there's another character, Andrew Minyard, who they kind of like catch the attention of each other. Andrew has a lot of emotional issues and stuff because of things in his past, and has gone through some really horrific things throughout his life up to this point. And so, but he is also very protective of like his family. Two of the two people he could really consider his family are there with him, who's his twin brother and his cousin. And so it's just, it's very dramatic. That, I know that synopsis made probably no sense, and I'm so sorry. It's just really hard to describe. That essentially we're just dealing with these characters' issues and their pasts coming back to haunt them, especially Neil, and just the absolute insanity that is his life. But it's super dramatic. Like I said, it's got like a mafia mob, Yakuza vibes, plus a sport as well. So it's like a sport romance, but it's also not. But it's wonderful. I love it. It's not going to be for everyone by any means. But this fourth book was a complete surprise to me when it was announced. And we're not going to be following Neil and Andrew in this one. We're actually going to be following Jean Jean Moreau, because he's French, and I know I'm butchering that pronunciation, and I'm sorry. But he is a side character from the main series. They're up there. And so we're going to be following him as he kind of gets out of this terrible situation he was in and joins this new team that he has been gotten into and stuff. Anyway, I'm just really excited to read it, even though I really hope we have the main characters from the original series appearing in here. But I am still very excited to read it. That was really convoluted, and I apologize extremely for that whole ramble there. But then the second book that I got from Amazon, so I am very interested in reading The Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, but I do like to read series in publication order. When there are like multiple series within a bigger world. So I do have the first Mistborn book, and I have the first Stormlight Archive book. But I found out that there was a book that came out before Mistborn. So I got a copy of Elantris. And this is actually the 10th anniversary, like, definitive edition, so it's got extra content, and it was on sale on Amazon, and I was like, well, that's perfect, because I really wanted to start reading The Cosmere this year, and like I said, I do want to start at the beginning where Brandon Sanderson began. So if you're unfamiliar with The Cosmere, it is essentially like this grand universe that Sanderson has created. He has lots of books and series that are still ongoing that are part of this universe, and they are all interconnected in different ways. But Elantris was the first one that came out, as from what I was able to find on the internet. And so the synopsis is, Elantris was beautiful once. It was called the City of the Gods, a place of power, radiance, and magic. Visitors say that the very stones glowed with an inner light, and that the city contained wondrous arcane marvels. At night, Elantris shone like a great silvery fire, visible even from a great distance. Yet as magnificent as Elantris had been, its inhabitants had been more so. Their hair a brilliant white, their skin an almost metallic silver, the Elantrians seemed to shine like the city itself. Legend claimed that they were immortal, or at least nearly so. Their bodies healed quickly, and they were blessed with great strength, insight, and speed. They could perform magics with a bare wave of the hand. Men visited Elantris from all across Opalon, to receive Elantrian healings, food, or wisdom. They were divinities, and anyone could become one. The Shaod Shaod. The Shaod, it was called, the transformation. It struck randomly, usually at night during the mysterious hours when life slowed to rest. The Shaod could take beggar, craftsman, nobleman, or warrior. When it came, the fortunate person's life ended and began anew. He would discard his old, mundane existence and move to Elantris. Elantris, where he could live in bliss, rule in wisdom, and be worshipped for eternity. Elantris ended 10 years ago. Okay, so I wasn't really sure what this was going to be about. Like I said, I just knew I wanted to start the Cosmere. But that sounds really, really cool. We have people being transformed possibly randomly, or maybe there's some kind of condition that you have to meet to become an Elantrian, who they sound very ethereal and very non-human, so it's very interesting that you can become that. But Elantris has ended, so I wonder if maybe it's actually just like hidden. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like much more interested in this now. So I'm really excited to read this one and to get into Brandon Sanderson's work, because I've just heard so many wonderful things about him as an author and about the worlds that he creates. Next, I have 3 books from Blackwell's, which is a bookstore in the UK that I recently learned has free shipping to the US, which is a little dangerous to know. So I got 3 books, one of which I have wanted to have for a while, and I really just prefer the UK cover over the US cover. And the second book is coming out soon, so I was like, well, I want to go ahead and get the hardback of the first book before it goes, out of print. And that is Scarlet by Genevieve Cogman, which is the first book in the Scarlet Revolution. So look at how pretty this cover is. I just really, really like this cover. And the design of it. This is a vampire book, so I do enjoy those. For one English maid, the stakes have never been higher. Revolutionary France is no place to be, especially for aristocrat vampires facing the guillotine. But the League of the Scarlet Pimpernel is determined to rescue them, and they have an ace up their sleeve. Eleanor, a lowly maid from an English estate with a striking resemblance to French royalty. For Eleanor, the League and its legendary deeds are little more than rumor, until she's drawn into its most dangerous plot yet. The mission? Travel to France in disguise, impersonate Queen Marie Antoinette, and rescue the royal family. If they succeed, it'll be the heist of the century. To carry out the League's ambitions, Eleanor will have to break every rule of maid's etiquette. She'll disguise herself as a man, negotiate with powerful vampires, and evade the Revolution's chief agent, Citizen Chauvelin. Obsessed with the elusive Scarlet Pimpernel, Chauvelin will stop at nothing to unmask him, even if Eleanor pays the price. But there's more to fear than ardent revolutionaries, for Eleanor stumbles across a centuries-old war between vampires and their fiercest enemy, and they're out for blood. Like, this sounds so good! I have wanted to read this since it first came out. I think it was last year, and like I said, the second book is coming out soon. I love a good vampire story, and this one sounds so fun. It's historical fiction, French Revolution, with vampires. It sounds great. I am probably going to save this for fall. Not that it's necessarily a fall book, but just because vampires. But it's so cool, and it's so pretty. Look at how pretty that cover is. I'm very, very, very excited to read this one. Then the next book that I got from Blackwell's, I also have been excited for, and I actually have a plan to do a video at some point, like, that this book will be in, but that is the first book in the Soulbound saga by Taran Matharu. So this is Dragon Rider, and again, such a pretty cover. It's so pretty, and you have the dragon on the back as well. Jai has spent his life forced to serve the cruel empire that killed his family and now rules his people. To grow ever more powerful, the emperor's young son is betrothed to Princess Erika of the Dansk Kingdom, an unconquerable realm where ancient beasts roam. The princess brings with her a priceless gift: dragons. Only Dansk royalty can bond with these magical beasts to draw on their power and strength. Until now. When the betrothal goes wrong, a bloody coup leads to chaos at court. Finally, Jai has a chance to escape. He flees with a fierce Dansk warrior, Frida, but not before stealing a dragon egg. To vanquish the Empire, he must do the impossible, bond with the dragon. Only then can he seize his destiny and seek his revenge. So, Dragon Rider Fantasy, I love dragons. I love dragons so much. And there have been so many good Dragon Rider stories that have been coming out recently. And this one just sounds great. It is a very large book. And it is the first in a series, so I really hope I like this one. I love dragons. I have since I was a kid, and I love a good story where the dragons are not evil, where we have good dragons. So I'm very, very excited to read this one. It also sounds like we have an underdog hero, which is another trope that I am a big fan of. So I'm really excited for this one. I feel like my book calls are just full of me saying how excited I am about things, but I guess that's a good thing. I guess you don't want to buy books that you're not excited for. Then the third and last book that I got from Blackwell's this month is Swan Night by Fumio Takano. I had never heard of this, and honestly, what got me at first is the cover. Look at how delightfully bizarre that is. It's so strange. And so I saw this cover on Blackwell's when I was looking for those two, and I was like, what is this? I've never seen this before. And then I read the synopsis, and I am just really confused, but very intrigued. And it's such a tiny little book. Like, look at how small that is. As the 19th century draws toward its close, King Ludwig II of Bavaria binge-watches television to escape his reality, sidelined by his own advisors. His one wish is to meet Wagner, the mysterious composer pumping out new music and scores of remixes every day. He sets out, alone and in disguise, to find Wagner in the maze-like subterranean city that sprawls deep beneath Munich. Meanwhile, Karl, a rookie magician hired by Wagner in the underground world, is shocked to be chosen as the lead singer for the Swan Night TV music drama. But even in the depths of the earth, the insidious shadow of political intrigue lurks. Who is Wagner, the man behind the myth? And what ultimate destiny awaits Ludwig and Karl? That gives me basically nothing, and it's such a short book. I have no idea where this is going to go. But it just, I don't know, something about this cover. And it deals with music, historical fiction. I don't know. It just seems really strange, and I am super, super curious to find out what this is about. Okay, so now we're getting into the first big bulky section of this book haul, which is my Book Outlet order. So Book Outlet was having a sale, and they had so many books that I was so interested in. I was like, you know what, I am just going to go ahead and just partake in this sale, get these. Now I will say, I am going to be definitely restricting the books that I'm buying from here on out. I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, but these purchases had already been made by the time that video came out. But I feel like this, and I'll talk about that more at the end, but I just was so excited for this sale, and I got all of these for super, super cheap, like really cheap, and I'm just excited. I'm very, very excited. So we're just going to go through all of these. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, I love dragons. I also love merfolk and like books and stories that have to do with sirens and mermaids and mermen. And so I saw this on the Book Outlet sale, and I thought it looked so charming and cute. And I love things like this. I love stuff that connects the fantasy to the natural. And this is kind of like a naturalist guide to mermaids. So it actually is called A Field Guide to Mermaids. It's by Emily B. Martin. And essentially it just goes through different types of merfolk that exist, where you can find them. It's got like illustrations and little informational bits of text about them. And I love this so much. I was a biology major in undergrad, so my bachelor's degree is actually in biology with a minor in English literature, and like zoology is my big thing with biology. So like study of animals, how they function, what their habitats are, their environments, their behavior, all of that. I love it. also like anatomy and physiology. But so this is just like right up my alley. It just is so cute and delightful, and so I am planning to read through this summer. Then the next book that I got from Book Outlet is An Inheritance of Magic by Benedict Jacka. This is the first book in the series of the same name, so also called An Inheritance of Magic. Money, power, privilege, sorcery. The wealthiest seem to exist in a different glittering world from the rest of us, almost as if by magic. Stephen Oakwood is a young man on the edge of this hidden society. He has talent and potential, but turning that potential into magical power requires money, opportunity, and training. All Stephen has is a minimum wage job and a cat. When a chance encounter with a member of House Ashford gets him noticed by the wrong people, Stephen is thrown into the deep end. For centuries, the vast corporations and aristocratic houses of the magical world have grown impossibly rich and influential by hoarding their knowledge. To survive, Stephen will have to take his talent and build it up into something greater, for only then can he beat them at their own game. So it just sounds so fun. I love a good story about magic and magicians and sorcerers. And I don't know, this cover is also just really, really pretty. And we've got like secret society and I don't know. I'm hoping maybe for also some commentary on privilege and power dynamics and stuff that exists in society. I don't know. I just think it's going to be really fun. And again, it's the first in a series, so if I like it, there will be more to look forward to. Then I also got this cute little romance novel called Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. Look at how cute. It's so cute. Love isn't always by the book in this charming romantic comedy about a bookseller discovering how to be the main character in her story. As a self-proclaimed book hater and a firm believer that the movie is always better, Drew Young didn't anticipate inheriting her grandma's bookstore, the Book Nook. She's in way over her head even before the shop's resident book club, comprising 5 of the naughtiest old ladies ever, begins to do what it does best: meddle. Best-selling author Jasper Williams is a hopeless romantic. When he meets Drew at his Book Nook signing event, he becomes determined to show her the beauty of reading. He curates a book bucket list in exchange for her help exploring the local Denver scene for his current manuscript. From going river rafting to trying local restaurants, Drew begins to connect with Jasper in a way she thought only happened in fiction. When messy family ties jeopardize the future of the Book Nook, Drew is caught between a bookshelf and a hard place. She's reminded that real life isn't always big dreams and sweeping romance. But Jasper is the plot twist she never saw coming, and he's writing a happily ever after just for them. It sounds so sweet, and I love a good sweet romance. I also love books that are about books and the love of literature and writing and reading, and this has all of that, and it's so cute. And look at him looking at her. It just sounds precious and sweet and adorable and very heartwarming, and I think I'm gonna love it. I really hope I do. Then I also got a copy of City of Bones by Martha Wells. So I do also have a copy of Witch King by her, which I haven't read yet, and the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, also by her, which I also haven't read yet. So at this point I'm just collecting Martha Wells books to read. But what can I say? The premises of all of these just sound amazing and like right up my alley. So this is the updated and revised edition of City of Bones. The city of Charisat, or Karasat, is a tiered monolith of the ancients' design, sits on the edge of the vast desert known as the Waste. Kat, a member of a humanoid race created by the ancients to survive in the Waste, and Sagai, his human partner, are relic dealers working in the bottom tiers of society, trying to stay one step ahead of the trade inspectors. When Kat is hired by the all-powerful warders to find relics believed to be part of one of the ancients' arcane engines, he and his party begin unraveling the mysteries of an age-old technology. This they expected. They soon find themselves as the last line of defense between the suffering masses of Charisat and a fanatical cult bent on unleashing an evil upon the city with an undying thirst for bone. That they did not expect. So I don't think this is part of a series. I did a little preliminary research online and I couldn't find anything that said that it is. But it sounds really fun. I love desert settings, so stories that take place in a city, in a desert, or like a caravan or something. I just really like that setting. I don't know why. I just think that it's always, or they usually end up being really well created and well crafted and beautiful. Maybe it comes from being obsessed with Egyptian mythology as a kid and watching Prince of Persia and playing Sphinx when I was young. I don't know, but I just love the setting for this one. And it also sounds like we've got like this ragtag group of heroes, and I always love stories that deal with non-human like fantasy races, which we also have in here. I don't know, I just think it's going to be fun. And it kind of gives me Money vibes as far as like the finding ancient artifacts and stuff like that. I mean, I don't expect this to be anything like the Mummy. I just also really like archaeology, and I know that this isn't necessarily archaeology, like they're going out and like dealing in relics and stuff, but I don't know. I just think it'll be really fun. I'm very excited to try it. Hopefully I like Martha Wells, considering, like I said, I'm just kind of collecting her works at this point. Next I have a book that I actually almost bought from Pango earlier this year, but then it got sold before I actually bought it. But that is The Demon Sword Asperities by Sarah Jean Horwitz. Oh, that's cute. It says you look like you could use a sword on the back. For the past 200 years, the demon sword Asperities has led a quiet life. While his physical form has been tasked with guarding the body of an evil sorcerer, the rest of his consciousness has taken a well-earned vacation. That constant need to trick humans into wielding him, at the price of their very souls, of course, was rather draining. Knack Furnival, on the other hand, is far from satisfied with his existence. Knack has trained since birth to be a brave and noble knight, but unfortunately he isn't especially good at it. Determined to prove his worth, Knack needs a quest. And to complete that quest, he'll need the one thing no knight can do without: a sword. When an attempt to resurrect the evil sorcerer throws Asperities into Knack's path, the demon sword can't help but trick the boy into making a contract to become his new owner. And with the newly undead, and very, very angry, sorcerer on their trail, Asperities and Knack find themselves swept up in a bigger adventure than either of them bargained for: saving the world. So I think this is a middle grade or young adult story. I think it's middle grade. But it sounds fun. We have this young page or knight in training now tasked with saving the world because he gets involved with this demonic sword that is conscious and sentient. And so I think we're going to have like this unlikely team up with these two hopefully becoming friends, maybe. But joining forces to fight back against this evil sorcerer and help Knack accomplish his goal of becoming a knight. I don't know, I just think it sounds really fun, sounds cute. I like a good middle grade, so that one got my attention. Then the next book I'm a little bit sad about, because I got this one. I've wanted to get it for a while, and then it was part of the sale, and I was like, I'm gonna get a copy. And I was so excited, and I'm also hopefully planning to use it for a video in the future, hint hint. But when it came, it's like ripped really badly on the back cover. But this is Novice Dragoneer, which is the first book in the first book in Dragoneer Academy. I made that mistake when I was looking it up, but the series is called Dragoneer Academy, by E.E. Knight. Now I will say Book Outlet's customer service is incredible. I did contact them to see if I could send this back and just get a replacement. Unfortunately, they were out of stock at that point of any other copies, but they did refund me for it, and they told me I could keep the book and do what I will with it. So for now, I will keep it. Maybe I'll try to glue that back down, maybe, if I can. But they were, like I said, just really amazing. Their customer service is great. Highly recommend Book Outlet. I think that they are a wonderful service, and they were very, very nice when I contacted them with this issue. But enough about that. Let's talk about the book. So again, we have another Dragon Rider book. Our renowned Dragoneers seek youth of ability and spirit. Those accepted will be sworn in as novices in the Serpentine Academy. Travel and adventure guaranteed. 14-year-old Illith grew up in an orphanage and, thanks to her stutter, was never destined for much beyond kitchen work and cleaning. but she's dreamed of serving with the dragons ever since a childhood meeting with a glittering silver dragon and its woman dragoneer. For years she waits, and as soon as she is old enough to join, Illith runs away to become a novice dragoneer at the ancient human dragon fortress of the Serpentine. While most of her fellow apprentices are from rich families, Illith must fight for her place in the world, even if it includes a duel with her boss at the fish-gutting table. Her path will lead her places she never imagined, whether it's joining the dragon dancers or taking charge of a sickly old dragon with a mysterious past, and to new heights as she takes her first flight into enemy lands. So again, we have dragon riders. This time, again, we've got another underdog hero, someone who has been marginalized and, not thought of as much for a disability that she has, fighting to achieve her dream. It just sounds so good. I'm so excited. And like I said, I love a good dragon story. So if you give me dragons, dragon riders, I'm sold. And then you put like an unlikely hero on top of that, you just have my heart. You don't need to say anymore. I'm going to be super invested in checking that out. And so again, the first book in a series. I don't know if there are any more out at this point. I didn't actually look into that when I was getting this. But even if there aren't yet, we're assuming that there will be in the future. So I really hope that I like this one. Then I got another middle grade. So this is Green Glass House, which is the first book in the Green Glass House series by Kate Milford. It's wintertime at Green Glass House. The creaky Smuggler's Inn is always quiet during this season, and 12-year-old Milo, the innkeeper's adopted son, plans to spend his holidays relaxing. But on the first icy night of vacation, out of nowhere, the guest bell rings. Then rings again. And again. Soon, Milo's home is bursting with odd, secretive guests, each one bearing a strange story that is somehow connected to the rambling old house. As objects go missing and tempers flare, Milo and Meddy, the cook's daughter, must decipher clues and untangle the web of deepening mysteries to discover the truth about Green Glass House and themselves. I have wanted to read this for quite a while, and this series has grown exponentially since this first book came out. Like, there are a number of books set in this world, and I just think it sounds so fun and so quaint. And you're just in this little house, this little inn, in the winter with these odd, mysterious guests and these kids trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, it definitely sounds just like, a nice little middle grade setup, and it just sounds really fun. So I'm excited to read it. And also, the art on the cover is really pretty. So I am going to save this one for winter because it definitely is giving off a lot of winter vibes, with the snow and like the holidays and just being kind of encased in this house while the snow is piling up outside, and I think it'll be very atmospheric to read in the winter. Okay, this next book I had never heard of before I saw it on Book Outlet, but it sounds so cool and so interesting. So this is The Grimoire of Grave Fates. It's created and edited by Hannah Alcoff and Margaret Owen. It actually contains stories by all of these authors here. So also, look at that cover. That is gorgeous. It is so beautiful. But so, when you hear the synopsis of this, you'll understand why I am so interested and curious about this book. Crack open your spellbook and enter the world of the illustrious Galileo Academy for the Extraordinary. Sorry, the font there made it look like the O looked like a D. A prestigious school for young sorcerers, the Galileo Academy has recently undergone a comprehensive overhaul, reinventing itself as a roaming academy in which students of all cultures and identities are celebrated. In this new Galileo, every pupil is welcome, but some people aren't so happy with the recent changes. That includes everyone's least favorite professor, Septimius Dropwort, a stodgy old man known for his harsh rules and harsher punishments. Sounds like a name from Harry Potter, Septimius Dropwort. But when the professor's body is discovered on school grounds under mysterious circumstances, the Academy's students must solve the murder themselves before the lens of suspicion turns on them. Told from 18 diverse perspectives with chapters written by 18 best-selling and critically acclaimed authors, The Grimoire of Grey Fates follows Galileo's best and brightest young sorcerers as they race to discover the truth behind Dropwort's mystifying death. Each of them is confident that only they have the skills needed to untangle the web of secrets hidden within Galileo's halls. But they're about to discover that even for straight-A students, magic doesn't always play by the rules. I mean, come on. We have like this academic setting, magic, a professor who everyone kind of dislikes has now ended up dead, and we have 18 different students trying to solve the murder separately, and they're all written by 18 different authors. This is so interesting to me. I'm definitely going to be reading this one this fall, but doesn't that sound so cool? It just sounds so neat, and it's got like the magic dark academic vibes with, I don't know, I've never seen a book like this where it's one story, one overarching story, but 18 different authors. It's just such an intriguing concept, and I'm super, super excited to check this out. And then the next book I got from Book Outlet is another one that I have been wanting to read for a while, and then also another one that I'm going to be saving for the fall. So this is The Left-Handed Booksellers of London, which is the first book in the series of the same name by Garth Nix. This one just sounds really fun, I think. In a slightly alternate London in 1983, Susan Arkshaw is looking for her father, a man she has never met. Crime boss Frank Thringley might be able to help her, but Susan doesn't get time to ask Frank any questions before he is turned to dust by the prick of a silver hat pin in the hands of the outrageously attractive Merlin. Merlin is a young, left-handed bookseller, one of the fighting ones. With the right-handed booksellers, the intellectual ones, he belongs to an extended family of magical beings who police the mythic and legendary old world when it intrudes on the modern world, in addition to running several bookshops. Susan's search for her father begins with her mother's possibly misremembered or misspelled surnames, a reading room ticket, and a silver cigarette case engraved with something that might be a coat of arms. Merlin has a quest of his own, to find the old world entity who used ordinary criminals to kill his mother. As he and his sister Vivian tread in the path of a botched or covered-up police investigation from years past, they find this quest strangely overlaps with Susan's. Who or what was her father? Susan, Merlin, and Vivian must find out as the old world erupts dangerously into the new. So, I have not read anything by Garth Nix since I was a kid, but this sounds so cool. I don't know. It just sounds so fun. We've got like alternate 20th century London, people fighting back against like the evil that's trying to incorporate magic into like our world. I don't know. It just sounds really, really fun. Plus we have booksellers who are doing the fighting. There was a TV show years ago. What was it called? Oh, I don't remember what it was called, but it had like a similar premise with like librarians trying to like police the magical world or something. Was it called The Librarians? I know there was a TV show called that, but I don't remember if that's the one I'm thinking of or if it's a different one. But I don't know. It just sounds really fun. And again, I'm going to save this for fall because the cover just looks very, I don't know, it gives me like spooky kind of autumnal vibes there. Plus, London often has the dreary, rainy, cloudy vibe to it in stories, so I think this will be really, really fun. I'm very excited. And again, first book in a series. I have a lot of those on my TBR. Lots of first books to try. And then I have another middle grade, but this one is not the first book in a series, it is actually the second. So this is Hollowthorn by Kaylin Josephson. It is the second Ravenfall book. I do have Ravenfall, which is the first book in this series. I haven't read it yet, but I did kind of read a couple pages at the beginning last fall, and I thought that it sounded really fun. So when I saw the second book on the Book Outlet sale for really cheap, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get it, and that way I can read these two together. I'm not going to read the premise of this one since it is a sequel to another book, but what I remember of the setup for the first book is that you have a girl, what was her name? Anna. Okay. You have a girl named Anna, and she has the ability to see when people are going to die, I think was what it was, when she touches them. And she ends up making a friend named Colin who is looking for his, I think his brother, or maybe it's his dad. I think it's his brother. So that's like really all that I remember, but it's like there are magical creatures and magical beings, and the ordinary people don't know that they exist, but people who are involved in that society do. And Anna's family owns a hotel or a bed and breakfast or some kind of event location, where both sides can like mingle without the human side knowing what's happening, I think. If I'm remembering correctly. Like I said, I don't have the book in front of me. It's in a stack over here with my other fall books, and I don't want to try to dig it out. But that is, I think, what I remember from the premise. And so this is the second book for it. And like the art on the cover is just so whimsical and pretty. But so I was excited to see this one because it's always nice to be able to continue a series. And as I've said in previous videos, I don't typically buy multiple books in a series that I'm not, like I haven't started yet. But I do really think I'm really going to like Ravenfall, and this one was really cheap on the sale, so I wanted to take advantage of that. Alright, so a few more books from Book Outlet, and then we'll get into Books A Million, and then the rest. So the next book is another first book in a series. Yes, I know I'm digging myself into a hole with all of these series, but it's okay. We're fine. But this is A Sword Named Truth, which is the first book in Rise of the Alliance by Sherwood Smith. Long dormant magical forces are moving once again in Sartorius Delis. Agents of Norsunder, a mysterious bastion of incredible dark power, have reappeared in the world, amassing resources and sowing instability. But with numerous nations led by young rulers brought too early to their thrones, the world is hardly ready to defend itself. Aten is still uncomfortable with her new queenship, gained after her country was freed from a Norsundrian enchantment that left it frozen outside time for a century. Senrid strives to establish rule of law after deposing the brutal regent seeking to extort control over rebellious jarls and a distrustful military academy. Gillo never expected the responsibility of leading his nation, but when its dictator vanishes after a Norsundrian attack, Gillo finds himself stepping into the power void, taking the reins of the country so riddled with dark magic that its citizenry labors for mere survival. Claire and CJ lead a band of misfits against magical threats that overshadow their tiny country, including a direct incursion from the Norsundrians. Those in power are not the only individuals working to subvert the plans of Norsunder. Lier, a young shopkeeper's daughter, battles her own debilitating insecurities to live up to her reputation as a former savior of the realm. Hibern, a mage's apprentice, must act as a liaison between national leaders, negotiating politics still foreign to her. Rel, a traveling warrior, stirs powerful allies to action and encourages common folk to take up arms. This disparate group soon realizes that any significant victory against Norsunder will require an alliance between their nations. Yet good intentions may fracture in the face of personal grudges, secrets, and inexperience. As the Norsundrian attacks become bolder, the members of this tenuous alliance must find ways to trust one another and bind themselves together, lest they fail to defend against a host that has crushed entire worlds. So, I think this sounds so cool. We have this kind of, it sounds like, vast cast of characters, all of whom are quite young and have been thrust into either leadership positions or otherwise positions of power and responsibility that maybe they're not quite ready for or not sure that they're ready for. And now they're having to like learn how to trust one another and team up together to fight back against this force that is threatening all of their lands and peoples and lives. It sounds so fun. I don't know. It just sounds really, really cool, and I'm really excited to get into it. And again, I don't think this is one that I had heard of before I saw it on Book Outlet. I had seen it on Book Outlet before this sale, so it was one that I'd had my eye on from that, but I don't think I've heard of anybody talking about this, and I really hope I like it. It sounds really cool. So then the next book is another one where I broke my rule of only having the first book in a series until I try it out. Because I do have the first book in the series and I haven't read it yet, but this one was really cheap on Book Outlet, and again, I just wanted to take advantage of that because if I don't end up liking it, I'm losing very little, as opposed to if I do end up liking it and then have to purchase it after that, I would lose a lot more money. But this is Destiny of the Dead by Kelcade. It's the second book in the Shroud of Prophecy. The first book is called, I think, can I see it from here? I can't see it from here. I think it's called Fate of the Fallen, I think. So this is the sequel to that. So again, I'm not going to go over the synopsis for this one, and I just barely remember the premise for the first. But we have, I think the so-called hero, the chosen one, has failed, perhaps died, and so his friend is forced to kind of take over that role. It's kind of, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and please forgive me if I'm incorrect, because like I said, I haven't read the book yet. But I think that's the premise for the first one. So this will be the sequel. I haven't read the synopsis for this yet because I don't want to spoil anything, but again, I was just excited to see this for such an affordable price. And so now I have the first 2 books in this series. And then I did it again, and I got Mysteries of Thorn Manor, which is the sequel to A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Also, this book is so tiny and dinky and adorable. I did not expect it to be so little, but it's so little. But I really want to read Sorcery of Thorns, hopefully this year, if not next year. And this was just so cheap. I wanted to get it so that I would have it, and it's so little and cute. What is the premise of Sorcery of Thorns? Do I even remember? Something about a magical library. Or a magical manor. And there's some romance. That's all I can remember right now. My brain is too full of synopses that I've been reading. That's all I remember right now. But I have heard so many people who I really trust their opinions really like it. And so this was on Book Outlet, and I went ahead and got it because it was part of the sale and it was really cheap. And it's also, again, I didn't expect it to be so little. It's so adorable. But now when I read Sorcery of Thorns, I can read that one directly after, which will be nice. Next I have Isle of Blood and Stone, which is the first book in Tower of Winds by Makia Lucier. I would have the truth one way or the other. 18 years ago, 2 princes of the island kingdom of St. John del Mar were kidnapped and murdered in a deadly plot by the rival kingdom of Mondrago. Everyone knows the story, but for Elias, Mercedes, and Ulysses, the aftermath of that tragedy is deeply personal. Elias lost his father, who was killed trying to protect the princes. Mercedes is half Mondragon, leaving her to grow up in the shadow of Del Mar's hate. And Ulysses, as the youngest and only remaining prince, inherited the throne meant for his older brothers. Now, the 3 friends just want to move on with their lives. But when 2 maps surface, each with the same hidden riddle, troubling questions arise. What really happened to the young princes? And why do the maps look like they were drawn by Elias's father, whose body was never found? If you don't find the body, you cannot presume death. That is my rule for movies, TV shows, books, all of it. It doesn't always work out, but sometimes it does. To discover the truth of that fateful day, Elias, Mercedes, and Ulysses must follow the clues hidden in the maps, uncovering long-held secrets and unimaginable betrayals along the way. But the truth is dangerous, and not everyone wants it to come out. Isle of Blood and Stone is a sweeping fantasy full of intrigue and schemes, romance and friendship, and fearless explorers searching for the truth. It sounds so cool. And we have like a sea dragon or sea serpent on the front. I have no idea if that's going to be like how that's going to take part in this, but I'm intrigued. And we've got, again, Motley Crue. I've mentioned before in other videos, I love stories about royalty. So we have like a prince here who is grieving the loss of his brothers, suddenly finds responsibility that was never meant to be his. I don't know. It's also really shiny. I apologize for the glare. But it sounds really fun. And again, first book in a series. I'm choosing to view that as a good thing, because that means there will be more if I like it. So then, the next book that I got from Book Outlet, and the last one on this list, is Mermaids Never Drown, Tales to Dive For. This is part of the Untold Legends series, and this one has stories by all of these authors. You can check that out. Essentially, this is going to be a book about a bunch of merfolk who, as I said, I love. So different short stories about different merfolk. It says in the little like blurb here, a Vietnamese mermaid caught between two worlds, a siren who falls for Poseidon's son, a boy secretly pining for the merboy who saved him years ago, a storm that brings humans and mermaids together, generations of family secrets and pain. Find all these and more in this gripping new collection that will reel you in from the very first page. Welcome to an ocean of hurt, fear, confusion, rage, hope, humor, discovery, and love in its many forms. I love merfolk stories. I do. I love them so much. I'm so excited to read this summer. And look at how pretty it is. It's so pretty. I'm very excited. There's apparently also a vampire collection in this series, so might have to check that out at some point. But for now, we're going to stick to this one. I just love stories about merfolk. I love marine settings in general and like nautical fantasy. And I love legends of merfolk. I love stories about them, and I'm excited because you hardly ever see mermen in these stories, and so it's nice, like they're hardly ever the focus is what I mean, and so it's nice to see some of these are gonna, I think, feature them quite heavily. So I don't know, that's just exciting. Okay, so I almost forgot. I did get a couple other books from Book Outlet, and I almost forgot because I have actually read these before, so they were on my bookshelves. So we're just going to go through them really quickly. The first one, I got a copy of Island of the Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell. I loved this book as a kid. I think the main character was like one of my heroes when I was a kid. I wanted to be like her and like know how to survive, and take care of yourself and like be so connected to the natural world. I just really loved this book. So when I saw it, I didn't own a copy of my own, and so when I saw it on the Book Outlet sale, I was like, oh my gosh, the nostalgia. I have to get this. But if you've never heard of the story, I will go ahead and just kind of tell you. Essentially, we follow Karana, who is a young Native American girl who lives on an island off of California, and one day her people leave. But she is left behind, and she's waiting for someone to come back and get her. They never do, so she basically survives by herself on this island for years. And this story, I mean, this book talks about her like finding food, and she makes friends with animals like these little otters and stuff, and making her own clothes, making her own shelter. Like, it really does touch on the whole survival aspect, but it's very calm for all of that. It's not super stressful like maybe Hatchet or something along those lines can be. She's just like living on this island, and she is dealing with the isolation and like having to take care of herself by herself. But I love this book. I loved it as a kid so much, and I think Karana is an amazing main character. She is so calm and peaceful, and she is so mature for her age, and like just, you know, she finds herself in this situation and she never really gives up hope. She just keeps going, and it's just, I loved it. I loved it. It's just a cute little like middle grade, I would say probably middle grade, like older elementary school book. Maybe not middle grade, maybe elementary school age story. I don't know. I read it in like second or third grade for the first time, I think. When did it come out? Like originally. Oh, 1960. Yeah, so it was definitely out then. So yeah, I probably read it in like second or third grade for the first time, and I just love it. I love the story, so I was so excited to get a copy. And then I also got a copy of The Mouse and the Motorcycle, which is the first book in Ralph S. Mouse by Beverly Cleary. It's just what it looks like. It's a children's book about a mouse who finds a toy motorcycle and goes on adventures, and it's so cute. So cute. Yeah. So I do like the cover art on this. It's cute. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say anything bad about this cover art, but I was a little disappointed because the listing on Book Outlet had the original cover art, which is the art that I was familiar with as a child in the version I read. But then it came with like this newer cover art, which is still really, really cute. But I just have a lot of nostalgia for the original cover art, so I was a little disappointed in that, but I am happy to have a copy of this. And then the last 3 books that I got from the book outlet sale, I got a box set of The Lord of the Rings because I have a problem. Actually, I'm not going to call it a problem. It's not a problem. I like to collect editions of my favorite books, and so I did not have these editions. These are the like media tie-in editions for the Ring of Power TV show, which we're not going to talk about. But I do have a need to have like every edition of Lord of the Rings ever. So, and you know, the show doesn't make these books any less good. So we have The Fellowship of the Ring, book number 1. The Two Towers. And The Return of the King. And so I was excited to be able to get these in the sale for, like I said, very inexpensive. It is a box set, so it is a little more pricey, but compared to trying to buy this set anywhere else, is very affordable. So now I can add this to my Tolkien collection, and I am one step closer to my very probably unachievable goal of owning every edition of his books, which, if you don't know, there are a lot. So now we're one step closer. Alright guys, so we are actually going to stop this video here because while editing this, I realized that I rambled on for much longer than I probably should have. This video ended up a lot longer than I expected it would, so I am going to split it into 2 different parts. So this will be part 1, and then next week you guys will get part 2, and we'll go over everything else, starting with the books that I got from Books A Million. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this so far. Maybe you found some books that you are excited to read, or you know, if you have books that you have gotten recently that you're very excited about, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about them. And if you would like to leave an emoji, let's do, is there a ship emoji, like a sailing ship or something of the sort? If there is, go ahead and leave that in the comments if you'd like to leave an emoji. Next week's emoji, the original one I picked for this video, will also have a nautical theme, so it'll just fit, and it'll fit the season as well. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you next week for part 2 of this book haul. Bye!
Oh boy! Is she pretty? Is she pretty? There you go.
Uh-oh.